Welcome to the first Sweet Hometown podcast. This is part of the Main Street Alabama Network, where we're going to talk about how Main Streets work, how we work with entrepreneurs, and how we change the world just a little bit at a time. So I am Mary Helmer Wirth. I am the state coordinator with Main Street Alabama, and I have been in the Main Street world for 27 years. Kind of hard to believe. I started out as a local Main Street director, then was an assistant state coordinator, and then got this wild hair that I should move to Alabama and take on the job of relaunching the state coordinating program here, and it has been a wild ride. I have been here almost 13 years, have loved every minute of getting to know this lovely state and the wonderful people that live here. But Main Street is all about how communities want their historic districts, the places where people came to build the history of their community, thrive and survive. So just a little bit about the Main Street background, and then we'll segue into the Sweet Hometowns portion. Main Street was founded in probably almost 50 years ago now as a part of the National Trust for Historic Preservation. And from that, they learned that the landscape of America was changing a little bit with highways and byways, and the places where you used to come and spend all your time and money was in that 30-mile radius. That's kind of how I grew up, in a small town of about 4,000 people. And you'll learn more about me as we move on, but I am one of 12 children, and I can really remember my mother taking us all into our small town to shop for school supplies and all the other things. And I'm sure the merchants were equally terrified and excited about, how all these kids were going to get outfitted for school. But we behaved in public. We did good. But that we did everything in that 30-mile radius in our small town. And that was kind of where a lot of the institutional memory, I think, of a lot of people thinking about downtowns and neighborhood commercial districts comes from, is that you could get everything you wanted. Well, federal highway system came in, and cars were fast and big, and gas was cheap, and we could go long and far. And one thing we have in the United States is land, and we like to sprawl, and we like to travel, and we like to do different things. So it really did change that landscape. Then you add the internet in, and you can shop at 3 o'clock in the morning in your pretty pink pajamas. Everything changed. So it's important to really think about how all of that made things move away from a traditional shopping district to where it's today. The lovely thing about the highways and the internet is it goes both ways. So we can use that as an advantage for us as we continue to grow our programs across the state of Alabama. So the National Trust decided they needed to build something up, and it ended up becoming Main Street America, the National Main Street Center, to help understand how we can save that real important piece of American life. So flash forward, here in Alabama, we had a program located within the Alabama Historical Commission. It was there for 20 years, very successful, became unfunded. Then it went 10 years without a coordinating program here in the state, and a group of very civic-minded, just power engine folks said, we got to have it back. We need to have the Main Street program back because we need this help in our community. So they came together and did all of the groundwork to get it going, and I was blessed to be the person that they hired to open the program back up in 2013. So at that time, we arrived and had 10 communities that were still calling themselves Main Street. So my first 6 months to a year were getting lost a lot, spent a lot of time getting lost. Took me a while to figure out that Birmingham, the railroad is our river here in Birmingham, which would have been really handy to know in the first, 3 weeks when I was going First and First Avenue. This does not make sense to me. I was all over the place. But now I have learned, first of all, Waze is my friend. But, I've got to see all kinds of places that I probably wouldn't have seen if I'd known where the heck I was going. But we learned those things, and we started traveling around and visiting the different communities and asking them, what do you want your district to be, and how can the Main Street framework help you get there? So that was my first year. In the second year, we started adding communities. So flash forward, almost 13 years in now, we have 34 designated Main Street districts, and I'll talk a little bit about what that means as kind of our overview, and 32 networks, and a couple of aspiring. So when I arrived, one of the big things we really wanted to do was to have an opportunity for communities that had need. Everybody has need, but not everybody has capacity. So we had that opportunity to say, okay, here's a level that's purely volunteer. You don't have to raise a lot of money. You're just going to have to put sweat equity into it to get things rolling and help things move forward. And that was the network level. I always call it, tipping the toe in the Main Street water. Is this a good fit for you? Now, Main Street works in 4 points. Some people call them pillars. I'm cool with whatever you want to call it, but 4 points. Organization is getting everybody, I say, singing out of the same songbook. At least you're in the same hymnal, hopefully, where everybody understands we like this, we want to move forward. We agree that this area is special to our community, and we want to figure out ways to save it and move it forward. So that's the organization piece, and that wraps around volunteers and funding and organizational capacity and partnerships. That's the big one. The next one is design. And design is about how things look. And it's probably the one that you think may not, you're thinking, oh, that's really not my thing. I'm not an architect. I really don't notice this. But it's the piece that affects most of us, frankly. When you walk by a storefront, you get 3 to 5 seconds for that storefront to catch your attention. That's design. When you look at buildings and the top is different than the bottom because something has happened over the years and the top never was done, you don't have to be an architect to look at it and go, that doesn't look right. That all falls into it. But it's not just about buildings. It's not just about storefront windows. Those are wildly important. But it's also about shade. It's hot in Alabama most of the time. So you want some shade. You want some benches to sit on, some carrying your cup of coffee, and there's no place to put your trash. All of those things fall into design. It's about trees and plants and all of that. And it's also about what guides you into the district and how you can feel comfortable getting to the next place. What is the breadcrumbs that get you to the next spot? So design is about all of those things. The next one is promotion. And promotion is about how we invite people back into the district. And sometimes that can be the people who have lived there a very long time. I was a local director for 10 years, and I remember we did an event, and I'm sitting on the golf cart getting ready for the next trash pickup, because that's how we roll as executive directors, just listening to the people walk by, and I heard this group of ladies come by going, oh, this is really neat. I wonder who does this. And I'm going, oh my gosh, we didn't identify that we're the ones that do this. But it did bring them down. The other thing they said was, I haven't been downtown except to pay my water bill in 5 years. So it was like, ooh, light bulb moment. So promotion really is, how do we invite people back to the district? And it's not just tourists, though we love tourists because they spend a lot of money and then they go home. But we really want our locals to be able to enjoy what's in the district and understand it. So promotion's about ringing those cash registers because you want your businesses to make money. It's about changing the image or perception of a district. It's about the buildings and the big projects that go on. And making sure that you have events and activities that invite people back into the district as well, showcasing the history and how you're moving things forward. And the fourth of the 4 points is economic vitality. And this is probably the one that most people have the hardest time wrapping their head around. It's about local entrepreneurism. It's about how do you build people up? How do you understand the market? A lot of you may have heard of Placer AI. It's cell phone data that tracks you everywhere you go. Yes, Big Brother is watching everywhere you go. But it's very interesting to see the in patterns and out patterns in the district from cell phone data and how it pings. So it's pretty cool stuff. And then, of course, we use Esri and Claritas to gather that information along with demographics. But understanding the market. So again, hearkening back to when I was a local director, we wanted to be champagne and caviar because doesn't that sound like fun? And we were really starting to pull some things together, try to recruit a high-end, high-ticket business to our district. And at the end of the conversation, she was very kind. I will give her credit for that. She's very kind to us. She goes, I understand why you want me, but I don't understand why I should want you. And I will tell you that was a humbling experience, and one that we came back and sat down around the table and said, we never want people to not want us again. And we knew we had to face the challenge of we got to make the people who already live here want us before anybody from the outside is going to want us. So economic vitality is about that and understanding who you were as a market. In my particular community, it was beer and burger. That's okay. And we figured out how are we going to work with that market and how we're going to build up the businesses within it. So one of the very first things we do when we work in new communities is spend some time with them, having them understand what is the market piece that a local business could add that could make their business more successful. You want to do that before you try to recruit new businesses to the district. And most people get excited about business recruitment, but frankly, anybody who you want to recruit is not going to come unless you already have a strong district. So you have to really work with the people who love you, who've already invested, who've already spent their time there, their lives there, and a lot of times put their names on the buildings because they wanted it to last. So that kind of tells you what the 4 points are and how the Main Street program works. So that's a little bit of an overview and an introduction to the different things that we're going to be talking about on this podcast.